Hi everyone, my name is Autumn Schrock. I am a travel, landscape, and astrophotographer, and a member of the Sony Alpha Imaging Collective. Today I'm really excited to share with you 5 composition tips for more striking astro photos. Tip number 1. Add leading lines. One of the easiest ways to add visual interest to your photos is to add a leading line. What this does is help your eye move around the image. Some of the most common leading lines that we see in photos are roads. A nice S-curve in a road can draw your eye up toward the Milky Way. And it might not seem obvious, but the Milky Way in itself is a leading line. So you may be using them without even realizing it. Where it takes your shot to the next level is when you start to use them intentionally. You can also add a leading line by using the foreground itself, like unique rock formations that are somewhat common in the desert. You can get creative by using something that, isn't as common as well, like, say, clouds. It's not your typical route, and it will admittedly require some luck, but you have so many options to lead the viewer's eye around your photo, so get creative. Tip number 2, play with light. Since astrophotos tend to be on the darker side, adding light elements like light painting help give your eye more to look at, which in turn can make your photo more interesting. You can achieve this effect by taking long exposures of car lights, both taillights for red or headlights for a white light. You can use headlamps, flashlights, basically any light source that isn't the sun. And maybe the foreground isn't quite as interesting as you'd like, but the Milky Way is going to look beautiful. So you can accentuate your foreground to make it more interesting by having a car drive through the frame, leaving light trails. Another fun technique is to use car headlights to illuminate a portion of the foreground. This helps to put an emphasis on the foreground element, and it helps to separate it from the background, which can add depth. Tip number 3. Have your foreground interact with the sky. While sometimes it works better to separate your foreground from the sky, like in the last tip, there are definitely times when having your foreground seemingly interact with the sky can make for a really powerful composition. It's a nice visual illusion that helps to elevate the shot. So in the northern hemisphere, the Milky Way core rises toward the southern horizon. And depending on the time of year, it hangs out at sort of an angle that makes it look like it's shooting out from the horizon. What better foreground element to place in front of it than a volcano? It makes it look like the volcano is erupting, but instead of lava and destruction, it's shooting out stars, gas clouds, and beauty. So there's this bittersweet emotion that comes into play. So finding different subjects, whether they be mountains or people or buildings, and having them interact with the sky can tell a really fascinating story. Tip number 4. Who doesn't love a good reflection? Capturing a reflection of the night sky can be an incredibly magical way to compose your shot. If you can find a smaller body of water, like a fairly small lake on a calm night, a perfect reflection gives photos a surreal feeling, like what's up and what's down. You can even play with flipping your image in post to have the reflection on top instead of on the bottom, which creates this bizarre reality. It makes the viewer want to inspect it further, like what exactly is going on here? Another option is to use the Milky Way as a leading line. The Milky Way is a more dramatic leading line when it's reflected and can draw your eye sort of throughout the entire image instead of just throughout the top in a normal astrophoto. Tip number 5. learn to love the moon. You'll find a lot of astro material that advises against shooting at any time except new moon, but I think this is a huge missed opportunity. The moon has so much potential to boost astro photos. It provides this amazing natural light to help illuminate your foreground, which reveals more detail in the shadows, and it helps to keep your ISO down depending on the moon's location and brightness. I would say look for about 50% illumination and lower, so about that third quarter, that last quarter moon. As you know, the moon can be very bright, and you don't want too much light because it will wash out the sky and hide stars in the Milky Way. But not only can it help to illuminate your foreground, if you plan it accordingly using an app like PhotoPills, or sometimes even just luck, being in the right place at the right time, the moon can be a really interesting compositional element. Placing the Milky Way and the moon together is pretty rare and can make for single shot compositions that almost look like composites. You can align the Milky Way or another night sky subject like the aurora to one side and have the moon on the other side. It can create this balancing act, or yin and yang, like opposing forces, night on one side and day on the other. So the moon really is an astro treat, so I highly recommend giving it a chance. I hope these tips were helpful. There is so much room to play when it comes to composition, so I encourage you to get out of your comfort zone and just really have fun. Try some wacky compositions. Sometimes you never know what'll work until you try it. If you have any suggestions of your own, I'd love to hear them. Drop a comment below. Again, my name is Autumn, and you can find me around the web as Autpops or on my website, autumnschrock.com. Thanks for tuning in!